Good afternoon, YouTube. JT, Serenity Farms prepping here. Excuse the appearance. Just got done working out, checking my emails, did a little Facebook. Have some exciting news for New York residents. Yes, there's New York outside of the cesspool of New York City. So, apparently, within the last hour, Air Como, that socialist, I'm going to try and choose it a little carefully. Alright, I'll just leave it at that socialist for lack of coming up with a more less inflammatory comment description. Okay, anyway, he just came down with an edict that all New York State residents will now be required to wear a mask. His definition being a cloth, a bandana, handkerchief, something tied around your face if you are going to be within the 6-foot social distancing arrangement. Okay. His statement included the sentence, "You, residents of New York, have no right to infect me." Well, we've all heard a lot of liberal, hypocritical statements in our time, but as a resident of New York State, this is probably one of the most hypocritical statements I've ever heard. This coming from the same gene pool as his socialist father, who I suffered under during my career in law enforcement. This is the same idiot who encouraged New York City folks, who he believes are the only residents of New York State anyway, to get out and about and disregard the president's warnings. His health services director came out and said, the risk is low, New York's preparation is high, go to the parties, get out and about, go see the parade. And then he paraded out a couple other Lib Tarde representatives who encouraged the same type of social gathering. Meanwhile, to date, the subway cars are still packed like sardines in a can as people go to and from wherever they're going to and from. But despite all the evidence that he hoarded PPE supplies, ventilators, masks, in a ruse to confiscate them from the rest of the state and get federal aid, which the president did. We all know about it. Even brought him the 1,000-bed Navy ship, which it appears Como intentionally infected with a COVID patient. How do you mistakenly send one person infected onto a ship that you knew was prepared in 3 or 4 days just for regular patients and parked in your harbor, but yet medical personnel who may or may not work for you mistakenly send a patient? So the entire 1,000-bed ship gets infected with only 20 actual hospital patients on it so that it can't be used until it's completely scrubbed and washed down. Meanwhile, I don't have the right to infect him, but he has the right to send infected, positive, symptomatic beer virus patients all across the state of New York into hospitals and communities that have relatively low, if any, cases themselves. All the while he's still transferring thousands of inmates throughout the state daily on buses packed with 20 or 30 convicted felons throughout the rest of the state to intentionally infect the population everywhere else. I am wild. The feeling of helplessness while this POS is 6 hours away, hiding, probably with Frito in mommy's basement, waiting for Daddy-O to come and give them a blankie and some crayons, is very frustrating. Because all we are, there's more cows than people up here, and I am one of those not welcomed pro-life, pro-gun zealots that my tax money's more than good enough for him, but nothing else about me is. But it's okay for him to infringe on my rights, but I can't infringe on his. Although I'm not sure how I'm doing that from 6 hours away. So once again, let's mandate the entire state, which is vastly, immensely larger than the 5 boroughs of the cesspool known as New York City. Let's penalize everybody else for our misgivings, misguided ideology that infect, pun intended, the rest of the state with their immoral, unethical lifestyles. Oh, it really got me fired up. I kind of was thinking about going and get another workout in the man cave because now I'm so fired up. But I decided that I would have a beverage instead, and yes, Serenity Farms prepping. I make my own brew. Oh, so I'm wired up. I'm gonna go do some stuff now. I, for one, am not going to submit to this order. I'm going to research whether this is constitutional or unconstitutional. Has he declared medical martial law in the state? His statement in itself, you don't have the right to infect me, should only pertain to where he is. How can someone 5 or 6 or 7 hours away from you with no desire to go anywhere near, excuse me, where you live, infect you? Not quite sure I get that Lib Tarde Logic. That statement in itself is an oxymoron. He doesn't live in New York City. If he does, he's driven or drives. You get where I'm going with this? Does it make any sense? No, it doesn't on one hand, but on another hand, it makes perfect sense. I just heard his press conference this morning saying how all the curves were flattening. kind of like his head. Oh, I'm wild. I normally maintain a calm, cool demeanor, and I'm sure within a couple hours I'll be back down to normal. But I'm also okay with not staying calm, because I want to impress upon you, especially New York residents, that we are being thrust into his little dictatorial view of New York State and what he believes his authority and powers to be. I really worry. Being 5 hours away, I'm not following this order. I was just in town this morning, and I went to Lowe's, and a couple hundred people in there. I saw a handful wearing masks. And that's their choice if they want to. I got no problem if someone wants to do it. I have a problem with me being told I have to do it. So, I'm wild. Did I mention that? Okay. Alright, I'm going to let it go at that. I just wanted to make it a quickie. And like, share, subscribe, comment. Don't like if you want. I don't care. Either way, it's good. Also got another video that I made this morning that I'm trying to download from my iPhone onto my laptop, that it keeps saying no connection. It's just very frustrating. And that one will be up also, but I'm going to try and download this one immediately. It should take probably a few minutes, and then it'll be up. So for now, JT signing off.